canon being what it is, divided, to put it gently.
What do you mean by divided?
Well, okay, some people. Okay, so it's so fractured. In canon, Palpatine is the puppet master and uses everybody, right? But even in canon, had Padme not been called away and Jar Jar stood in their place and voted to have Palpatine be the Supreme Chancellor, he wouldn't have had it.
Was that because there was an emergency going on?
Yes.
Fred's getting it now.
Yeah, she gets attacked, exactly.
So that was, okay.
She wants to go back to her home planet.
Right.
He's got to come in instead. So if you look at
he's
it,
the final vote.
He's
the one who presents it.
Right.
He's the one who will present this legislation. Who could do this? I'll do it to give. But the idea of the Darth Jar Jar theory is that they were buddies. They were working on this from the beginning.
Or I mean, I just read something today. I had put on the subreddit that I wanted some speculation. Like, let's just speculate with canon being what it is, divided, to put it gently.
What do you mean by divided?
Well, okay, some people. Okay, so it's so fractured. So some people believe that only the 3 first movies that we originally saw, 4, 5, and 6, are the only things that exist. Because the next you have the prequels, which obviously I like because that spawned Darth Jar Jar, but some people think that's not. It's not in the same kind of vein as the original trilogy. Right. One reason being, and this could be pure speculation, whatever, or hearsay, internet talk, whatever. That the original 3 movies, George Lucas's wife kind of was his checks and balances. So over the course of time, where George now there's a big gap, then decides he's going to shoot the prequels. He's divorced. She's not there anymore. There's nobody telling him no. He has complete full reign.
Right.
Do whatever you want to do.
Which is why after the first one and the backlash Jar Jar had, it really affected him. And I really think it made him change what he was going to do. Because it was his most personal film he'd ever made, and the people hated it.
The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, it was...
I mean, I gotta admit, I didn't like it either. Like, literally, for me, before Darth Jar Jar, the saving grace was, wow, that horned guy with the double-bladed lightsaber is pretty rad. I'm gonna buy his toy.
Right.
So, but since, I think it's, like, you could see all the subtleties he wrote. Why, at this point in time, he's been asked about the Darth Jar Jar theory. So...
and what does he say?
Well, the thing is, he's been asked, and his secretary responds. I don't think he's ever publicly on record saying anything about it. His secretary says something to the effect of, it's not that it's not true, but there's really not a comment or not a reason to comment on it or something to that effect. And it could be an NDA because the mouse would probably drop the hammer or something.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's something, maybe I'm like, I don't want let George Lucas live for another 50 years, but a deathbed confession of like, this is what I really wanted, that would be rad.
Yeah, that could happen. But so Disney wants this mystery. More people get into it. People like these questions. Hanging. No, I like it, and I do. And there's a group of people that like the Jar Jar theory. But back to the fracturing, there's some people that are all cool with everything, literally everything up until the sequels, and then they're like, that's no longer. I can't watch Star Wars anymore. That's no longer Star Wars. That's something else. And then it seemed where people, you know what? Okay, fine. That's not Star Wars to me, but I'll watch the Force Awakens just to see what it does. But literally, what it did was like crush the souls of most people that like Star Wars. And then you think maybe the next movie will like try to redeem it. Right. It literally was worse.
Right.
It like literally the director Rian Johnson was
the Clones movie.
No. This is the last
number
Jedi.
5.
No. We're talking about 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, 7, 8, 9 now.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah. So number 8, Rian Johnson or whatever he calls himself. Yeah. He goes on record saying he wants to subvert expectations. So literally everything you thought I should do, he does the opposite. So it's kind of like Costanza thinking, his life's garbage. So he does everything he thinks, he does the opposite.
And it turns out
but hold on.
For George.
You're talking about Star Wars, one of the most successful IPs of all time. Why would you want to do the opposite of where the story's leading?
Because I guess I'm Rian Johnson and I'm smarter than everybody else. I mean, but like literally, you've not seen it.
Yes.
Okay, so like Rey, the whole episode 7 is let's find Luke, let's give him back this lightsaber, and let's get him to start something.
Help us out.
The first thing, which Rey finally walks up these crazy like stairs and this rock island that took him like people died to find him, and he takes a lightsaber and he just throws it.
Yeah,
he throws it over his shoulder.
Yeah,
and to make matters worse, Mark Hamill didn't agree with his character at all. He says Luke wouldn't do that.
No,
Luke wouldn't be some hermit on this island.
Never.
Yeah.
Like this is
meditating.
Right. You're literally killing a role model and a childhood hero of millions of people by doing this.
With one scene.
Right. And he says, this is not Luke Skywalker. This is Jake Skywalker. So actually Jake Skywalker became a meme because Luke said, this is not Luke.
Right.
But then he had words, apparently, with the director about who knows more about Luke Skywalker. I would argue the guy that's been him for the last, 50 years?
Yeah.
Literally created the character from his psyche and acting talent.
George had him do this, but Luke created him.
Yeah.
So it was like literally like you want to say like the balls on that guy. So to literally just trash everything. And then you get the Rise of Skywalker, which is just a train wreck in and of itself. And I think
well, you know what happened with the Rise of Skywalker?
No. Well, I mean, you're going to tell me something I don't know then.
Enlighten us.
Carrie Fisher died.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
They had a different movie where she was going to be the triumphant. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy wanted Leia and Rey to lead Girl Power Revolution, Star Wars 2.0. I mean, that's the whole.
And Han Solo gets killed.
She has the final say over stuff, and that's very important to her. And I'm all power, no problem with that. But the problem happened when Carrie Fisher died, and now the whole movie was based around her. Well, and they had to literally come up with something because they had this schedule that artificially imposed deadline that they had to get it released by.